Hey everybody, welcome back to the Love Me a Latte channel. I am joined with some very lovely ladies here today. We got Maria Filer, 10,000 Days of Gratitude, and Allie the Unicorn. And in today's video, we're going to be answering questions 10 and 12 of our Collaboration Connection project. And if for some reason you're on this video and you're not really sure what's going on, I'm going to link a card up above to the very first video, and that I give an explanation as to how this project came to be and what it's all about. So we'll just jump right into it. We're going to start with question number 10, which is, if you knew that in 1 year you would die suddenly, would you change anything about the way you are now living? What and why? And then a second part of the question is, what if you only had a month and not a year? So I'm going to go first for this one. See, I'm trying to be realistic because as much as I want to be an optimist and be like, oh, of course I would change this, this, and this in my life, I feel like that's probably wouldn't really happen. But the biggest thing I think I would change is that I would shift my priorities. So my last 5 years of my life I've been in school, and then I've been doing an internship, and I've been doing a ton of work, and I haven't really been focused on extracurricular activities and my hobbies and things like that. So I think that I would shift over and really just say kind of screw it, to the work stuff and just basically play all day. So I would probably try and do stuff that I really haven't made time for, like traveling. I would make sure that I would spend time with family and friends, and especially people I haven't seen in a while too. Like before I die, I would definitely want to see everybody that I love and that I care about if I could. Another thing too is I would probably try and pursue at least a goal of mine. So I have a couple goals that I've wanted to complete in my life. One of them would be to write a novel or write a book. I actually have two ideas on the go. One I've started. So I think if I had a year, I would just try and punch that out, try and get that novel out into the world, leave a little part of myself for other people to enjoy. And if I had a month, I think that I would try and, I don't know if I could write a book in a month. I mean, I could try, but I think I would just make those things more of a priority. Like I'd be quicker to, hang out with those people and pursue my hobbies and things like that. All right, I'm going to pass it on over to Maria.
Well, it's hard because obviously I would want to travel and see people that I love. But depending on how literally we're taking this question because of everyone being stuck at home, that's extremely hard and depressing, because if this situation actually was real, then I would kind of just be stuck, I love to travel so much, and it's something that I miss so much right now. And there's so many places that I still want to go. So if I only had a year, I would be traveling, but also not all the time, because I would want to spend as much time with my cats because I love them. And yeah, just see all my family and friends that I never get to see, because most of my closest friends live across the country. And obviously, I've said before, I live in Chicago and my family all lives in Michigan. My extended family all live in different states. So it would all just be spent traveling and continuing to make art, because like you said, Lindsay, kind of making your mark through writing would be your way. My way is art. I really want to paint murals, so that's something that I still do want to do, but that would be something a little more permanent. And if I had a month left, well, my answer would be the same. I would just consolidate everything, because, the people you love, it's important to see them. We could all just travel together. That would be great. If, pretending that the quarantine isn't happening, because traveling is great. And that's my answer.
All right, awesome. We'll move on over to Tanya.
Well, I hadn't even thought about the fact that maybe the quarantine would be on. So the first thing I would do is quit my job. I'd quit working for money. And a thought I had is, if we weren't in quarantine and we could travel, I would like to go to Antarctica and photograph the blue of the icebergs down there. And I would, I don't know if I would train to climb Kilimanjaro. I'm not sure if I would make it within that year, because it depends on how you're going to die. If you're going to be good and healthy up until that last minute, then I could. If I'm going to have a slow decline, that's probably not going to happen. I would try to write, well, I would put together my book because it's already written, and get that, tucked away. And I would do more painting. I would spend much more time in prayer and contemplation. And I would have, I would make some bequests to some friends that have been there for me through the years before it actually hits probate and they get taxed on it. But yeah, so I would do some tax planning on that, and I would have a party, and it would be more like a wedding than a funeral. And I would invite friends from throughout my life and all over the world to come. And those that couldn't make it, I think if they were important to me, I'd make sure that the finances were there for them to fly there. That's assuming we're not in quarantine. If we were in quarantine, then I'd have a party anyways, and it would be a Zoom call or a Google Hangout. Let's see what else would I do. I think that's it. Oh, I would plan my funeral, and I would get rid of things, because when my mother died, we had to go through the house, and that's really a burden on people left behind. So I would be getting rid of a lot of stuff, and sending things to people that I wanted them to have and not want other people to have to deal with. So I would be getting my life in order and planning my funeral, or my final farewell, because it may not be a funeral, the way that I would like it to be. And if I had a month, I wouldn't do all that. I would quit working. I would ship my journals and my raw material for my book to the person who knows that it's coming. They already know that should this happen, they're getting it if I don't have enough time to finish it. And I would get rid of everything. I'd plan my final farewell, and I would have the Zoom call with everybody in the world. And personally, I would see my family. Like in both cases, no matter what, I would make sure that I extended my social circle to see my family. That's it. That's my answer.
Great. And Allison?
So if I had only a year left to live, I think I wrote down I'd get out more. I would really like to go on a out of country missions trip. I've been out of the country before, but not on a missions trip. So that's something that I would like to do. I think I would also spend a lot of time with friends and family as well, and maybe just be more bold about talking to people about my faith and about what I believe. And if I only had a month to live, I would probably spend most of it with friends and family. I'd go back up to my home state, and I'd spend my time with my family and my friends. So I think that's what I would do.
Perfect. And we're going to go on to question number 11. So what role do love and affection play in your life? All right, Maria.
So like I've said before, I grew up in a household that was very not the kind of people to be very open with emotion and affection. So in the beginning part of my life, I was very closed off and not used to like intimacy emotionally or physically. But I've realized that I'm sure like it's human to want to be like loved and have affection towards me, but I definitely realize now more than ever that I need it. Like I took the love languages quiz, and physical touch is like my number one thing. It's comforting to me just to like have my back scratched. I don't know why I'm so obsessed with having my back scratched. It just feels good, okay? But it's something that I think is really important for me to show love, and it's not the only way. Quality time is really important to me too. I'm not really sure how else to answer. I just know that I was not raised to be openly affectionate, so it's something that I'm always working on. and something that I really appreciate when friends or partners can show me in a healthy way. Did I answer it? I don't know.
Yeah, I kind of like what Allison was saying. This question I also was like, oh, I don't know. So I actually like kind of Googled what other people answered for this question. I think you did answer it well.
Yeah, like I'm not one of those people that's like, ooh, don't touch me. Like, I like to hug. So that's me.
Great. Tanya, you good? Okay.
For me, I had a challenge with this question as well because I wasn't sure what affection meant. And to me, I thought that meant the physical demonstration of love, but it was a milder form of love. So to me, I'm going to answer it as love and the demonstration of. So for me, love is the spiritual path that I'm on. So it's the center of my life. And unfortunately, as a child, I grew up in a family that wasn't very demonstrative and wasn't very emotional. But fortunately for me, I spent my early, years from 2 to 12 growing up in Montreal, where the French Canadians and the Italians that lived there showed me, a lot of how to demonstrate love. And I learned to talk with my hands, and I learned to touch people a lot. And when I moved to different parts of the world, I had to learn to calm it down, especially London, where people don't touch. So to me, yeah, being that it's the center of my life, love to me is a verb. It's not a feeling, it's an action. So, everything that I practice is love. So gratitude is about love. It's about having an open heart. Service is about demonstrating love in the world. Oneness is about feeling the love that we all experience as a human race. And joy is being in the presence of love. So yeah, it's everything to me.
Great. Okay. I guess I'll go for this one. So for me, I think love and affection plays a bigger role than I think it does in my life, whether I want to admit that or not. So with my family, they were pretty affectionate, especially my mom. Like my mom is super affectionate and loving towards us. My dad is also affectionate, but it's more like physical touch and just kind of being there. And I find I'm kind of a mix of both of them. And for me, I really do love to receive love and affection from other people. It makes me feel very important. It makes me feel wanted. And yeah, like I just really love to receive love and affection in whatever way that is. So I also took the love languages test as well. And my top three would be quality time, words of affirmation, and acts of service. So those are the kind of the things that I really like to receive the most. And for me, like also thinking about affection, I always thought, oh, like affection means like physical touch and things like that. And I always felt weird because I don't really like to start or at least initiate like physical touch with other people. It's not really like my thing. I don't go around like hugging people all the time. And like when they hug me first, I'm just kind of like, ugh. Like it depends. Like if I really like the person, I really enjoy them and care about them, I really do like to get hugs from them. But when it's someone you're kind of friends with or something, they come up and hug you, I'm just like, a little bit on that one. Because it's just not my strongest love language. And I always felt like I thought of myself as being an affectionate person, but then there's part of me that feels like I'm not affectionate because I'm not doing those physical touch things. And words of affirmation is one of those things where for me to talk out loud to somebody, it's a little bit harder. I'm a lot better with writing how I feel down on a piece of paper. So sometimes I might write people like little love letters, or if it's like their birthday or something, I'd write them a little note in their card. But I'm not really upfront with people in terms of like speaking out loud about how I feel about other people. But it's something that I really wanted to work on. And so I really have been trying to work on that a little bit more. And I think a part of it comes with being vulnerable and just, having to get over that fear of vulnerability and things like that. So yeah, no, love and affection is really important to me. And it's also important for me to give love and affection to other people. And I think if you figure out what other people's love languages are, I think that's really a big thing to do, because some people are like me, they don't really care as much about physical touch, but for some people that's like one of their top love languages. So I think figuring out what people like and then giving affection and love in those ways, I think is really important. All right, Allison, are you good to go?
Yeah, I think I'm good to go. So I agree with Tanya when she says that love is an action. I don't think that you have to like somebody in order to love them. My mom growing up loved my siblings. She probably didn't always like us. So, but love is a very integral part of being a Christian, and loving others and loving your enemies is a big part of that. And we don't do that. That doesn't come naturally, that doesn't come easily, and that's why we need Jesus in order to do it. Jumping on the love languages train, my leading language is actually quality time, followed by acts of service. So those are my two love languages. But I agree with Lindsay in stating that, finding out what other people's love languages are and then being able to speak those love languages is something really, really important. So that's what I have to say about that. Yeah.
Awesome. We're going to go on to the last question, which is, how do you feel about your relationship with your mother and with your father or whoever else raised you?
So my relationship with both my father and mother is pretty good. I do have a stepfather. I get along with him well also. Like, he's like a second dad to me. So my mom and I are very close growing up. We have similar personalities as far as I know. With my biological dad, the relationship was a little more difficult. I love him. He loves me. We talk. It was just a lot of issues with emotional connection growing up for both my brother and I with our dad. So we love him. We talk to him, but it's not exactly as close.
I can go next. That's no problem. So since this is my channel, I am going to throw a little bit of typology and MBTI into this answer. I just gotta. Okay, so we'll start with my mom. So my mom is an INFP, and it's awesome. We get along so well. We really connect on an emotional level. We're both introverted, intuitive feelers. So our relationship, yeah, we're really close. Like, we're silly with each other at times, but then we can have those deep conversations. Like, if there's something in the world we don't agree with and we want to rant, like, we can do that together, and it's so great. And she's always been there for me. If I'm upset or something, she always like knocks on my door and comes in to make sure that I'm doing okay, and she'll listen to me if I need to talk about things, and I do the same for her. My dad's a little bit different. So my dad is your classic ISTJ dad, very common dad type, especially for INFJs. And with him, most of our relationship is we're joking around and we kind of share things about our every day-to-day life. But beyond that, we can't really get emotional with each other. If I try and get emotional or talk about deeper concepts, he really just doesn't understand and kind of could sometimes brush us off. I don't think he's doing this because he doesn't care. I just don't think that he can relate to me when it comes to those kind of things. So I do wish that we had more of like a better emotional connection. But I'm glad at the same time to have that from my mom. And I think that they balance each other out well, because sometimes talking to people who are really similar to your type can be difficult as well, because you can get locked into that, really being emotional and really feely and stuff all the time. And it's sometimes nice to talk to a sensor and to kind of just talk about everyday things in the real world. So yeah, that's how I would answer that question. All right, Maria or Tanya, one of you can go.
I guess maybe my dad is an ISTJ because he's exactly the same. He jokes a lot. He's super goofy, but and I think a lot of it is upbringing. Like, men don't show emotion. He was born in the 50s, and that's just how, especially as a Catholic, you're raised to, at least in my Catholic family, that's how it was. I didn't even see him cry until I was 30, and it was at my grandpa's funeral. So like, he just super, like, we never talk on the phone. Whenever I talk to my family, my mom is the one that's leading the conversation. Like, my dad's great, and he's got ridiculous jokes, but like, we don't have a close emotional relationship, and that's obviously something I'd like to work on. So that's going to take some work on my part to like make a point for that. But like you said, Lindsay, that's just not how his brain works, and his personality is just that's just not the way he functions. So other than that, the relationship is fine. And so, as you have probably gathered from previous answers, I have a very complicated relationship with my mother. We are both extremely strong-willed, stubborn, irritable, not irritable. Well, we have our opinions and we get very flustered and very upset when we are riled up. So we push each other's buttons a lot. Like I said, my mom was quite protective when I was younger, so there was a lot of resistance there when I was growing up. We don't have that like BFF relationship. Never will. That's fine. But I have found that living separately from her does help the relationship when we can just talk via text or like phone calls. It's one thing, but you know, as soon as I go home, that teenage Maria comes right back out, and like we get at each other. So I love my parents, obviously, but yeah, my mom and I, we're probably too similar, and that's probably why we butt heads so much. So it's just an interesting dynamic. That's my answer.
All right, Tanya.
This is the one I didn't want to answer. So I moved back to Canada to have a relationship with my father. And like others have said, you know, he's not, well, he's really got a great sense of humor, but emotion and touchy-feely stuff is really not his thing. And so that has been not all that successful. I mean, the way in for me has been to talk to him about his childhood and to get to know him through what he liked growing up rather than who he is now. Because when you go back to your childhood, you have more tender feelings about it. So that's what I've tried to do. It's not what I'd like it to be, but it is what it is. And that's probably not going to really progress much more at this point, given his age and his capabilities. I also have a stepmother, and they get along very well, and they're like two peas in a pod. But my relationship with my mother, so she passed away when I was still, you know, like a late teenager in university. And so we were very close. We spent many years living together alone and traveling alone. And maybe we were too close. But also at that age, you have a really complicated relationship with your mother. You know, you fight a lot. When she got sick, I think I was about 18. And I went away for a co-op work program. I went away for a work term and she passed away. So I spent years being guilty about that. So, yeah. But what I would say about parents is that we inherit so much from them and our ancestors. And so we inherit their wounds as much as we inherit their gifts as well. So I'm sure I get some of my wounds from my father in terms of, you know, I say love is everything in my life, but I think that really romantic intimacy is still a challenge for me because I didn't see it modeled with my dad. But I get from him the gift of writing, and I get my sense of humor from him. And from my mother, I bear the wounds of being without a mother because she was, you know, effectively an orphan, even though, well, she was given up by her mother, even though she lived near her in a community. And so I bear that wound, but I also have the gifts of compassion and kindness and our cultural heritage. I have her name and her mother's name and her grandmother's name. And so I have that lineage in, you know, in my DNA. So yeah, it's quite complicated, but it is what it is.
All right, great answers, ladies. Thank you all for tuning in today to watch this video. And if you could, on Thursday, check out Tanya's channel, because she's going to be posting the bonus question number 2 of our collaboration connection project. So definitely make sure that you head over there. And in general, just check out my fellow collaborators. I'll leave their channels down below. All right. Thanks for watching. Goodbye.